What's up, guys? It's me, Strawhead Nate, and I'm back with another One Piece chapter review. This week we got chapter 1115 of One Piece titled Continental Fragments. So the chapter title relates to the topics that Dr. Vegapunk talks about in this chapter because he continues revealing world government secrets. Following a similar pattern to recent chapters, this one shows a plethora of reactions around the One Piece world, mixed in with more fighting on Egghead Island, all while Vegapunk talks in the background. The fighting in this chapter seems mainly one-sided, showing the Gorosei wreaking havoc on Egghead Island and on all of the good guys, like the Straw Hats. And each week, it seems that the characters that we get reactions from get more and more niche, such as Foxy and Demalo Black, who are just some who we see in this week's chapter. Chapter ends with a major important reaction, though, to Vegapunk's secrets, so we'll talk about that when it comes up at the end of this video. So let's begin going through the chapter chronologically right after you like and subscribe. The cover this week, to start off, continues with Yamato's cover series. And in this one, Yamato hasn't even left the flower capital yet. She's just getting her lunch packed for her journey by Hiyori and Otoko. And now, to begin the actual chapter, we start with some reactions in Wano, the place where we just were for the cover series. While Vegapunk talks about Joy Boy being the first pirate, Momonosuke, Kinemon, Shinobu, and Otama listen in on a Denden Mushi that's sitting in the streets of the flower capital. Then we cut to a cell on the G4 naval base, where we see reactions from Demalo Black and his crew. And if you don't remember, Demalo Black was the Luffy impersonator from Sabaody. And now he and his crew are dressed up as the Kid Pirates, probably trying to do the same thing they were doing with the Straw Hats. Now, Vegapunk continues talking about how he had limited access to information regarding the Void Century's big climactic war, but he has enough to know like a clear story. He states what we already know first, that Joy Boy faced the allied powers of the 20 kingdoms that came together to be known as the world government. And as he says this, we see Warkuri angrily scream Vegapunk's name while he chases after Luffy and the Giants. So he is really pissed off at Vegapunk. And we also see Mars walking through a room, destroying all of the Denden Mushis in sight with his haki. So he's also pissed off. Then we are gifted with much more yapping from Dr. Vegapunk, where he says that he cannot necessarily determine the cause of the Great War from the Void Century, so he doesn't want to call either side good or evil. He just wants to state objective facts. We see a panel here of Joy Boy, at least in this silhouette form, and it looks identical to Gear 5 Luffy, since Luffy's Gear 5 form is supposed to be based off of him anyway. Then Vegapunk repeats how Joy Boy was born into the super advanced kingdom beyond current scientific technology, even his own genius technology on Egghead Island. That's when we cut to see more reactions. First in the Zou Kingdom on top of Zunisha, where Carrot is amazed by these ancient revelations. Then we see none other than the Foxy Pirates, led by Foxy, who's now rocking a beard, which is pretty cool, but they don't really care for what Vegapunk is saying, unlike Carrot. But now we go back into the Labo phase, where Stussy and Kaku are just resting as they're waiting to put down the barrier. And then Edison calls Stussy to tell her to just drop the barrier right now and leave, since the Gorosei can literally just get through the barrier and it's useless. So she might actually end up escaping with the Straw Hats, like some people want. She tells Edison that she doesn't know what her purpose is anymore, which is the sad reality she has to face as a clone. Then we see Jinbei and Zoro running as fast as they can to get to Nami's group so that they can escape pretty soon. And then now on the ground, Nesjiro is going crazy on the Straw Hats and the giants that he's fighting. And the giants even say that he's able to cut through anything. And he proves it too. He goes up to slice Bonnie, but she luckily shrinks down from her giant size and gets swooped up by Frankie too. But the slice from Venus Juro's blade ends up slicing clean through the figurehead of the Elbaf ship, so his swordsmanship is no joke. Then he leaps into the air and literally slices through the entire Labophase cloud, where a lot of important characters are. We see that this slice sends all of the Seraphim and the Cypher Pole agents that were in the basement into freefall, but this also might affect the Straw Hats' ability to make their escape if the cloud is messed up now. While this is all happening, Vegapunk keeps talking about how the Void Century ended with Joy Boy's defeat and how the scars of the conflict were never truly healed. He confirms here that the great sinking of the world that he said would happen soon already happened once before in the Void Century. The world as we know it in its island format was once a world of a bunch of large continents that got swallowed up by the rising ocean. So the One Piece world of 800 years ago looked a lot different. With this proclamation, we then see some ancient ruins at the bottom of the ocean too, to prove that Vegapunk's telling the truth. But then more reactions start coming. First, we see Shimotsuki Village, where Zoro was raised, and even they're listening in to Vegapunk's reveals. Then we see the priceless reactions from the Revolutionary Army, since this ties in directly to their mission. Specifically, we see Ivankov, who is astonished, and Sabo, who looks more like stern and serious. After that, we cut to Kokoyashi Village, Nami's village, and unlike the rest of the residents in the village, Nojiko doesn't seem to care much about Vegapunk's secrets. Vegapunk says that the sea rose an entire 200 meters, which is actually a huge number. For comparison, if that were to happen in our world, the entire state of Florida would be submerged. So even the Marines on Egghead react now because of how crazy that number is. But some are more serious and they still want to focus on the mission at hand with saving the Cypher Pole and finishing the Buster Call. After that, we keep jumping around to see more and more reactions. We see Mocktown on Jaya once again. We see Dalton and Kureha on Drum Island. We see the Galley Law Company on Water 7 once more. And we see Morgans, Vivi, and Wapple in the news headquarters. Morgans has quite the reaction since he is the news guy after all, so Vivi has to shut him up so they could actually hear what Vegapunk's talking about. Vegapunk says that this massive sea level rise could not have logically been a natural calamity, but it has to have been the doing of the ancient weapons. He lets the world know here that those ancient weapons still exist today in the hands of the world government, which means that the Great War from the Void Century is still technically ongoing. This is his final grand revelation of the chapter, so we see the last reaction with it too. On the Holy Land, Marie-Joie, Im-sama reacts to Vegapunk's final reveal of the chapter, with a menacing stare like he usually does. And showing Im-sama right here could allude to the fact that the ancient weapons will be used very soon, possibly to destroy Egghead Island, like how Lulusia was destroyed. But that's all for this chapter. Overall, I think the most important part of the chapter was actually the Gorosei's sheer destruction of the island. It shows that they do not care at all about the island or the people on it, especially with Nazjuro and his huge sword slice through the latter phase. And while I love the many guest appearances in this chapter, I just find it a little bit confusing to cover them while Vegapunk talks in the background. Vegapunk's reveals, though, have been slow because of how much he contextualizes, but they're massive reveals nonetheless. And I can't wait to see what else he reveals in the next chapter, which we'll be getting, luckily, next week. This is the first time we got 2 chapters in a row in over a month, so you know I'll be back here next week to make a video on it. So, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe to show your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.